I'm here. I'm gonna get Nekaya on here whenever she joins, but I'm gonna just go ahead and get started because I don't believe in making people wait and just look at me while I wait. I don't know, that's kind of weird to me. But I do want to preface all of this by saying we're not in the business of making anybody do anything that they're not ready and able to do. So this is an open conversation, open dialogue. There's no stupid questions here. Anything that you have, go ahead and put it in the chat. Or, well, yeah, you have to put it in the chat at this point. I've been telling people forever to like message me their questions and stuff like that. But for now, put them in the chat. Waiting for Nekaya to join. So yeah, I already have some questions written down from what people have given me and also some that I just get asked very often. Okay, I see Nekaya is here. I'm gonna add her in. And let's get started. Let's get straight to it. Did that work? Did that work? Nekaya request to join. I tried to add you as a moderator, but I don't. Okay, there we go. Right. She should be on in a second. It's just taking a second. Okay.
Go.
All right.
Get me in position. How are you today?
Great. Welcome.
Yes.
Excited to get this conversation going.
Myself in the right. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Is this better? Can you see me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. Before you got on, I was just saying, I wanted to open it up by just saying we're not in the business of making anybody do anything they're not ready and able to do. This is just a conversation to get questions answered and to just learn more about the process and what it takes to hit those goals.
Absolutely. Let's talk all about it.
Yes. Okay. So for starters, what would you say is the number one thing people need to know before getting into the process of buying a home?
I would say the number one thing is really your mindset, right? So you have to have the goal of wanting to actually own a home. And you have to know why or what the importance of that is, right? And so before we kind of get into like down payment and everything else you need to do, it definitely has to be your mindset. It has to be a goal of yours, right? So whatever that reasoning is, you have to kind of make sure you narrow that down and you stick to your plan. And you determine your why. The why is always super important, right? That could be you have children of your own. You want to one day buy grandma's house. You want whatever your goals are. Whatever your why is, you definitely want to make sure you have that determined for sure.
Yes. Mindset is definitely everything. Because I think a lot of people get excited, but then scared. I mean, you do go through different emotions while you're getting prepared and also while you're in the process. But I think if you have that end goal in mind, and like you said, that why, that's gonna be what keeps you going to make it to the finish line.
Absolutely. And then I would say after that, you start determining when. That's when we got the why, so now it's when. Okay, when can I realistically make this happen, right? That's when you do your research. Let's find out how much I do need to make this happen, right? Let's find out, hey, how much can I really afford to pay in a mortgage? I know I've been paying my rent, but what does that look like in a mortgage, right? So that's when we start to figure out the when and the what's and the hows, right? So I think if you kind of go in that order and you stick to it and you're disciplined with it, then of course you can achieve it.
Yes. Okay. So then from there, what is the when and the what and the how?
Right. So the when would be, okay, let's say you have a goal of 2 years. Okay. So you know what? I need to save X amount every single month because in the 24 months, I'll have this much. And that's how much I need for a down payment. Right. And I need to save it where I won't be able to touch it. Open up an account where you do not get the actual card, or you can only do X amount of deposits, whatever you need to kind of discipline yourself. I'm sure there's an account that can accommodate that, right? There could be a way you take that money straight from your paycheck where you don't even see it, right? It goes straight into a different account, right? So it's different ways, you know, however what you need to do as far as saving the money, that's definitely key, right? The same way you have to save when you are renting and you're dropping this 2 times rent plus security deposit, you're saving up for that, right? So if you kind of just be disciplined enough to save double that, then you'll be in a home,
Yes.
right? So I think that is definitely super important too, right? And the thing is sticking to it, period, and never touching it at all, right? And so I think that's really key. When we get these tax returns, a lot of people get refunds. Got to save that money, right? So we have to be disciplined in knowing, no, we're not turning up. We're not going on this trip. We're not doing this year because guess what? I have a goal, right? I need to get into my home.
That's the hard part, I think, because I have some people who I know are ready, but they're like, I want to travel, I want to buy a car, I want to do this, that. And also I understand sometimes things are a necessity as well. Like you do need your car, right. Something up and you can't help it. You can control what kind of car you get, but
you can control that. It doesn't have to be $1,100 car note, right? We also need to be realistic as far as the debts. The debts is a good one. I'm glad you're bringing up the debts. That's super huge. So that's one of the things. So what we do is calculate a DTI, which is the debt to income ratio, right? So that debt is important. So not only should you save, you should be working to pay off the debt at the same time. And I would start with the largest monthly payment first. Not necessarily the largest balance, because this is a monthly transaction. So when it comes to pre-approval, we're looking at what comes up on a monthly basis on your credit report, right? So even if you owe $20,000 on that credit card, but your minimum payment is $50, it's no need to rush and pay that down. That could be money on your, that could be money for your, my mind just went completely blank and it's crazy. That could be on for your down payment. That could be for your down payment, right? However, it will make a difference. Sometimes that may bring your credit score down though, because you do owe that. But then again, if you hold that $10,000 and use that for the down payment instead of paying that down, then that could be a significant difference for you as well.
So is there a healthy level of debt that you would say people should shoot for? Like you don't necessarily need to pay off your credit card, you're saying, or necessarily pay off, student loans or other debt that you have. What is that like for, the different monthly payments that you have? Or what if your student loans are in deferment? What's a healthy level of debt to get prepared?
Yeah, so student loans are a whole nother animal by themselves, right? So student loans, best thing people can do is get an IBR or IDR. That's a payment program where they base it off your family size and your income, and then they kind of tell you what that monthly payment will be, right? Some people are even zero, and if it's zero and you show me that it's zero, then it's zero, right? So deferment is great. It's zero to you for that time, but for us, deferment means, okay, well, we know that student loan is going to be due within the 30 years, right? Because when you buy a home, you sign up for 30 years, right? So we have to calculate a payment. And by doing that, we take the student loan balance and multiply that by 0.5%. And that's going to be your payment that we're going to have to hit you for. All right. Yes. Right. So if that is the case,
student loan times 0.5%.
Student loan balance times 0.5% will give us your payment. So let's say that you owe, we could do one really quick. Let's say you owe $50,000 worth of student loan. And then, so we're going to hit you with $250 a month will be your payment. But if you're on IBR, an IDR, which stands for income-based repayment or income-driven repayment, then, and your payment is $50 or $100 or $0, we're going to take what that IBR gives you for sure.
Okay. So are there anything, I guess, is there a specific credit score that people should shoot for having before starting the process?
Sure. So I would say just like it's nothing, it's a little similar to when you're trying to rent a place. It's like I posted a 1-bedroom, 1-bath yesterday, Sunday night in Long Beach. They're like, if you don't have a 700 score, they won't even look at you. They're harsher than the mortgage requirements, okay? So it's always going to be a credit requirement. I would say, you need to have a 580 to qualify FHA. But if you would like to get down payment assistance, I would say shoot for that 660, 680 or above, okay? But you can qualify to buy a home at 580. Interest may not be where you want it to be, but the minimum credit score for FHA to qualify for a 1 to 4 unit is 580.
And that's if you're thinking, okay, I have a low credit score, but I may have to put more towards the down payment.
And that's
like
not necessarily true. You can still go 3.5% down.
Okay, there you have it, y'all.
Yep. Yeah, definitely can still have that same 3.5% down payment. Now your interest rate, if you had a higher credit score, may be more favorable, but it's not going to be that significant of a difference. And there's other ways if you do have more money where we can buy that rate down. You know, you can go the opposite way and get credit on the rate if you wanted to. So it's a couple of different options you have there.
Okay, yeah. I have a question in the chat. What does your credit profile need to look like? I feel like that's kind of in what we were saying, but I guess, is there anything specific on the credit that's like, oh no, that's going to be bad, or,
Collections, bankruptcies. I need to know the time from when it was discharged, not filed, right? Tax liens, the same things they're going to look for when renting, right? So, like I just said, sometimes the landlords are more strict than these mortgage requirements,
No.
right? So if you can rent, you can buy. I think Jacqueline put that in the chat, and that's absolutely true, right? So just like you package yourself and they run your credit for getting a place, it's the same way. I'm going to run your credit to see if you qualify, and I'm going to tell you what to do to get there to make sure you get these keys, right? So it's the same type of thing, except this is ownership, right? This is ownership. So that's truly the difference.
Okay. So coming off of credit, what about the down payment? Is there a specific amount that you would say that people need to have saved up? I think that's a question I get all the time. How do I know if I have enough money to do it? I have income, but I may or may not have enough savings.
So that's when I would say, okay, where do you want to live and what type of property, what city, and what does that property look like? So I'll kind of go backwards a little bit, right? Because I can't, if you want $1 million house, your down payment is different than a $200,000 one, right? So I got to have a deeper conversation to say, okay, where are you looking at living? How much do you even qualify? And then from there, at the very end, I can tell you based on your purchase price, how much of a down payment you need. But in general, 3.5% FHA, and then an extra 2% for closing costs. So I normally calculate, if this is some random thing, let's say 650,000, I take 5.5% of that. That's 35,000, give or take. Right? But that is based on 650,000, right? So it's kind of hard to say I need this blanket amount of money when I don't know, where you want to live and that whole deal. But during the consultation, I'm able to break that all the way down, right? But if you do have a budget, so let's say it's somebody that says, you know what, I rent for $2,500, I can't go over $3,000. Then I'm gonna take that $3,000 and I'm gonna turn that into a purchase price, right? And then from there, I can tell you, okay, well, at $3,000 a month, probably won't be living in LA County, right? Unless you're living on the outskirts, maybe Kern County, something like that, right? Then I could tell you, okay, that might be 250,000, right? Then I could say, okay, well, 200, if you take 5.5% of 250,000, then you're going to need 13,000.
Yes.
Right. So it starts with where's the property, what are you looking at, so on and so forth. Right.
So one thing I do want to add as well, that's an option for people, because I also hear, oh, I live in LA, I want a house in LA, but I only got approved for 350 or something like that. What do you say to those people? Because my suggestion, like you said, would be maybe look at something outside of LA County, maybe even consider buying something out of, get yourself in the game. And maybe that could potentially be a rental property that could pay your rent in LA. Like, do you think that's a good strategy, or what would you?
Yeah, so I would say a couple of same things you said. Number one, how about your first property not be where exactly you want it to be? Because that's not really how it works, right? Our first car wasn't our first dream car either, right? So we have to crawl before we walk, right? And so with that said, you got to buy where you can afford for that first one to just get into the game. Like let's get in here, let's own, right? Let's gain equity, and then let's sell, and then you're really in the game, right? So I think you have to buy where you can afford, kind of get in where you can fit in, especially for your first one, right? So if it's 350, first thing I would say is, okay, do you have cosigner? That's the first thing I would say, Like, okay, do we have a cosigner so that we can go ahead and push that up? But just realize when I push that up, that pushes your payment up. So even before that, can you even afford to go over? Because you qualify for a certain amount for a reason.
Yeah.
So can you even afford to go over 350? I know you want to, but is this in your budget? And so when I break it down that way, some people are like, oh yeah, you're right. So it's like you qualify for 350, but you want to send me stuff that's 450, but you don't want to pay $500 more in your mortgage. So I'm confused and wasting my time and yours. So let's stop wasting time. I have to kind of keep my own clients in check, keep them within their own budget, right?
Yeah.
What happens is you're going to go see it, you're going to get excited, I'm going to write it up, I'm going to get accepted, and I give you the numbers, you're going to be like, oh, well, it actually is too high. So, and then you didn't waste my time, you didn't waste your own time. So I'm like, no, if you tell me your budget is 3,000, I will not show you anything over that. You can go to somebody else and waste somebody else's time for that. But when you come to me, I keep you in line and keep you in your own budget, because in reality, you have to pay that mortgage yourself, right? Why would you want to struggle and pay a mortgage because you just had to live, 15 minutes closer in? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and another thing is we can't have everything from the beginning. You're not going to have it all, right? You're not going to have it all. You're not going to get the best neighborhood at the best price and the best rate at the lowest down payment, like all of that. Some of that has to give. Some of that has to give. You get what I'm saying? So again, that's back to that mindset, right? You have to understand what you're doing and how you're doing it when it comes to properties, right? Yes. Are you even going to live here forever? Are you just buying this for the right now and you sell it in 2 years? If so, why are we even caring? It's okay. We can be inconvenienced for a couple years, right? So it's really that first conversation to really dig deep and just really figure out, like, what is your true plan, right? Yes. Like, what is your true plan?
Yes. And I just have to say, that's what we love about you, is that you keep it real with your clients. We're not over here selling dreams.
Absolutely not.
Okay. We had another question. How soon are you able to remove someone from the mortgage if you allowed them to co-sign for you?
As soon as you can afford it by yourself. So if you can refi and I can, the balance of your loan, if you could take care of that, because I must have added the other person must be added because you couldn't really hit that price point you wanted to alone.
Yeah.
But maybe something has changed. Maybe you have a raise now. Maybe obviously the balance has went down. So we would check that. But if you can afford it by yourself, then yeah.
Okay, next question. Going off of that, how many people can you have on a loan? How many people could I go into buying a house with as an investment property?
As an investment property?
Okay, let me not say that. Let me not say as an investment property. How many people can be on a loan for a residential property?
10.
10
is the last number. Yeah. 10 is the last number I heard.
And how does that work?
I
want to get me, my mom, my brother, and 8 of my cousins and aunties and uncles. What does that look like? How do we start that process together?
The same way. I'm going to send you a link and everybody going to fill it out. I'm going to send you another link. Everybody's going to pull their credit report, right? I'm going to gather that all into my system. First of all, I'm going to find out this is a true sale because this is a lot of work. It sounds like a lot of work already. Right? Are 10 people pulling up to the property to see it every time? Like, I just kind of want to know the real logistics of that. So it probably won't be 10 people, right? But I will want to know if this is actually, a serious thing. And what happens is we take everybody's income, add it all together, but then we also take everybody's debts and add it all together, right? Then what we do is we're going to take the lowest middle score of all those people, the lowest one, because that's how that works, right? So again, you can't have everything. So you're not going to gather everybody. You can't take one person's credit and right? It's going to be the lowest person's middle credit score, everybody's income, and everybody's debt.
Okay, so that's
what you qualify for.
I might have 700. My mom might have 650. My cousin might have 540. It's going to go about.
You talking about dollars?
Oh no, I'm saying the credit scores.
Oh, the credit scores.
The other, okay. Like, so the person with the 540 middle, that's what we're going with.
Correct.
So yeah, so it's definitely important that you still pick the right people if you are to go into it with other people. But that's an option. And I think that a lot of times, especially in our community, we don't like to think of that as an option because we still want to be like, oh, well, I just want to go buy my house. I'm not trying to deal with my family.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
the game and what other people are doing to get into the game,
right,
we got to work together. We're better together.
Definitely better together. Definitely better together. So, but let's talk to the people who are saying, you know what, I don't ever want to buy. I'm just going to rent forever. What's really the point of purchasing, right? So we were just on a meeting earlier where we were actually shown, the benefits of actually buying, right? And what the numbers, because numbers don't lie, what the numbers actually showed us was that, let's say your rent is $2,500 a month, right? And you want to buy, so let's say that person A rents $2,500 a month, person B buys a property at $500,000, right? It showed by the end of year 4, that's when it's kind of even. But after that, it's cheaper and better to buy after year 4, right? Because your rent, right? So if you go $2,500 times 30-year mortgage, right? You're gonna be paying more in rent than you are with the mortgage. And we didn't even factor in, like, if your rent, obviously your rent's gonna increase. Your rent's not gonna stay $2,500 for 30 years, right? Yeah. So obviously that's going to increase as well. So maybe on a short-term basis, renting is, it's okay. Life happens. We have to rent sometimes. We don't own. It's fine. But always have the end goal of ownership. Plus, in 30 years in America, right? Our America here, they say, hey, you're supposed to be retired. So when you retire, your income is pretty much cut in half. But so if you had a home, it'll be paid off. But if you're still renting, you still have rent, right? That's why we see some older folks probably working second jobs. They're still at, working Walmarts or office jobs or wherever they're working because they decided not to own, right? And so you have to think about the future and the longevity of that, right? Yes. So if you rent, you're going to look up and you're going to be 60 and you still have this rent. And then your homegirl who bought the house, it's like, girl, I'm mortgage free. I'm about to go over here. I'm about to go this. I'm going to bingo. I'm doing whatever. Right? You're going to work. Right? So it's really something that you really have to think about long term.
Yes. And also to that, I do want to say, because I have a couple people on here that I know for a fact are world travelers who live internationally or travel all the time. I think for that kind of lifestyle, that would make sense to continue to rent until you know that you're going to have a home base somewhere or invest somewhere. But if you know, I'm going to stay in this place, in this city for at least the next 3 to 5 years, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think people typically live in their first home for 3 to 5 years. Is that right?
That's on typical, right? But I wouldn't even suggest that to me. Wherever you're doing, you can still own.
Okay.
Because when they go off, they can rent it out.
True.
They can still write off the interest. You're still getting equity. So while you're traveling the world, why can't one of the properties pay for you to travel?
Okay.
So I wouldn't even. You can Airbnb it while you're gone. Get somebody else to do it. You can have a property management company take over, right? So I think however you live and whatever your lifestyle is, you definitely could buy. For sure.
Someone said travel and make that passive income with an investment property.
Of course, yes. Absolutely.
Okay. This brings me to another one because I work with leases often. I get a lot of renting questions. Okay. So all the time, can I rent and then rent it out?
Can you rent and then rent out the property that you're renting?
Yes.
Well, that's up to the landlord.
Yes.
So, I don't, I mean, I think people do that at Airbnb, but they may be doing it without permission. Right?
Absolutely.
But when you own, you can do what you like with your own property. Right? I know someone who bought a home and basically she bought it for Airbnb and she makes like well over the mortgage every single month in this market right now. Right. So, and it's a small place. Somebody would be like, why did you buy that? I don't even think it's 1,000 square feet, but it's the location. It's right downtown and people are coming to town. They're looking for a small place to, stay for a couple of days. It's walking distance to things. So but that was her goal and that was her plan. So she doesn't even live there. So you have to have a plan and know what you're going to do. So that's back to the first thing I said was you have to have a goal. You have to have that mindset to know exactly what you want to do and figure out how that looks.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of with that, if you're renting, like you said earlier, if you're spending that $2,500 for years on end, even if you are renting it out to other people, you're still paying out more money in the long run and actually not building any kind of equity for the future.
Right. I don't understand why people rent and then sublease it.
I think that
is that what
I think the barrier, or at least what feels like an easy, quick fix to get the money, is the upfront cost of buying a home. I think when it comes to having that down payment and having to be disciplined through the process, I think that is what makes people shy away from just going ahead and doing it if they're able to, versus continuing to rent. I think it's just easier to keep renting, I think. But
when you go in, but when you apply, you have to give, like, let's say 2,500. You got to give them 7,500 to start, right? Gotta give them, right. So it's like, okay, you're already there. So all you do is save more. I just told you to get into one. I forgot the price point it was, but it was 13,000. So that's only a couple thousand more, right? So I guess to me, you're halfway there already, right? Yeah. But I guess you just want the quicker solution, but sometimes quick is not best.
Yes. Also, someone said my friend does it in Long Beach. She's on the lease and rents the additional rooms to cover rent and make money. So yeah, I guess you can make money, but I just think in the long run, when you think years ahead, is where you're actually not making as much money as you think you are.
Right. And then how sustainable is that? Is that the plan for 30 years?
Right.
Right. I'm just wondering. And then when the rent goes up, then what? She puts everybody else's rent up? I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. I can see how that could definitely help you in the meantime, in between time. Right. But I guess I'm just wondering. I guess I talk to people on a long-term basis, not really the short-term things that happen,
Right. Another question that I had is real estate really the only way to build wealth? I hear about people doing it with a line of credit, etc.
I don't think it's the only way, but I also think that it's, one of the best ways. Right. So I definitely don't think it's the only way. I mean, there's stocks and all kinds of stuff going on. Right. But I definitely know that it's one of the best ways to build wealth for sure. And it's not that hard to do. People think the process is super hard. I guess it also depends on who you talk to. But me and my team, we do our best to really explain it like a third grader, where it doesn't seem super overwhelming and, oh my gosh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and everything. It's almost like when you get into, when you apply for like college or apply for like anything else, there's always steps and applications and stuff you have to fill out, essays to write, and all kind of other things to do when you're getting into whatever you're trying to get into, right? It's the same thing. I'm not sure why this housing or this real estate just has this tag of so overwhelming, right? In reality, it's kind of just like everything else that you're trying to apply to or for.
Right. Yeah. What suggestions do you have if I'm living paycheck to paycheck?
Save, right? I don't care if it's $10 a month. You have to save something, right? Look for a second job. Right? We got to change. So what is your long-term plan? I'm sure forever you're not obviously going to live paycheck to paycheck. So it's like, okay, is that going to school, enhancing your skills? Is that, so it always starts, like I said, with that first conversation, and I need to just hear your plan, right? Is it a cosigner? Is it getting 5 other people on with you? Is it getting an older relative on who won't mind helping you? But it's also about you being able to pay that mortgage every month, right? So those are just, about 4 or 5 options, but those are the ones just off the top of my head, right? So it's like, we can't fix your life, right? So you can't come to me and be like, well, I got this, I got that, I'm like this. I'm like, okay, well, let's just, when you at least got these 2, then come talk to me, right? So I can't fix your life, but at the same time, I can help you and try to guide you in a direction so you can take steps to fix your own life. You get what I'm saying? So I understand life happens and things are temporary. We all been through all types of things. We all just survived the pandemic, right? So I can tell you what you need to do and what you need to have in order to buy the property, right? But I don't have a solution for just every single thing that everybody has going on. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the realization of it all, right? So,
yes,
so
I like You said that I can't fix your life. We not a Yanla. uh, okay. Okay. So next question: what do you say to someone who might not necessarily have the most highest income, but let's say they have a family member who would be willing to help them with a down payment, or maybe there's a death in the family and they come into some money? What do you say to someone that isn't necessarily able to afford it off of their income right now, but they come into some money? What do you suggest for that?
Save the money, don't spend it. And so the thing is, this is a monthly transaction, right? So whatever house you buy, we have to make sure and prove that you can afford to pay this mortgage every single month, right? So we're still coming back to your monthly income. This is a monthly transaction, right? So if you put $200,000 down on the property, the bank still wants to know, how are you going to pay what's left over in this mortgage every single month? Right? So it still comes down to, I need your job history. It still comes down to the same thing. There's no shortcuts around this, right? Like, people try to like give me all these different scenarios and cut corners. Nah, you should have been doing it prior to 2008 if you wanted all that, all right? So right now they're not letting anything fly like that, right? So with that said, no matter how much of a down payment, if you still don't have enough money to pay that every single month, I'm still gonna say the same thing. Let's find a cosigner, right? Let's find, or you keep some of the money because you're like, oh, I'll just pay my note with that money I have saved up. Great. Well, you need somebody who's going to qualify with you. So I'll take you, put you on it, but you still got to bring in your auntie, your cousin, your sister to make this happen and show this income that you can pay this note on a monthly basis.
Got it. Okay. I had someone reach out to me I guess it was yesterday. It's only Tuesday. Who doesn't have a bank account. What do you say to that?
Get one. Like, I mean, so where's the down payment going to come from? Is it a gift? It could be a gift. But they still want 2 bank statements. You know, I'm not trying to say you have to have a bank account, but if you can give the money to somebody and it's a gift, then I'm sure that'll fly. At the same time, though, I believe they definitely want to see the last couple of months' bank statements. Because I'll ask them, why don't you have a bank statement? Why don't you have a bank account? Are you on check systems? That'd be the only reasoning I would think somebody wouldn't have a bank account right now. With so many Zelles and Cash Apps and fast ways to send money and stuff, like, it seems like the easier way to roll. But if you don't, then we'll have to just figure out, okay, well, how are you keeping track of your money? You have a P&L statement, you have something else to prove, because the bank is going to want to see your income coming in every month. How are you keeping track of it? Do you have a profit and loss statement? What are you showing me, right? The bank statement is easy because most people's checks are deposited straight into their bank account, and they can see the deposits on a consistent basis every 2 weeks or once a month or however you're getting paid, right?
Okay.
So I would say, okay, well, because all I just need to see 2 months of a seasoned bank account or seasoned money. So if you have mattress money, you can put it in the bank. Call me in 60 days. I'm going to ask for your last 2 bank statements. Boom. I have no further questions because that's all I see.
Okay. And to that, with how you were speaking about just the convenience of all these different ways to make payments, would a Cash App or Venmo account statement work if that's where your income is? I know I have a little debit card for my Cash App. So would that account work, or would I need to go to a Chase or Bank of America or,
are you self-employed, or are you speaking from a self-employed perspective, or just a regular person with a W-2?
I'm just speaking mostly from someone with a W-2. Like, I'm saying, I have my regular checking account, but I do use Venmo, Cash App, things like that. I happen to have a card. And I show, let me just speak for me. So if I want to go into the pre-approval, can I show my Chase account, my Cash App account, if these are places where money's coming in?
So the only time we need all your accounts is if you're self-employed and we're trying to really get you pre-approved that way.
Okay.
If you have a W-2, only want to see the account that has the money.
Okay.
So that's really the account we really care about. We want to make sure that you have this down payment. So I don't necessarily need to see all the accounts. Now, are you saying that it's like most people don't have Most regular people with a W-2 don't have this situation. It's mostly the self-employed people that have money coming in everywhere. And it's just kind of like, they pay me on Zelle, they pay me here, they don't pay me there, blah, 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 right? And there I need to see the 12-month history of it. That's the case, I would think that person would be a little bit more organized and maybe have QuickBooks and throw it in there, or however because it's almost like if you can't tell me how much money you make, if I say, hey, how much money do you make per month? And that person says, oh, I need to count it, or that's like, how do you think that sounds to a bank?
Yeah.
So it's like, we got to really take this into reality. Like, so you want me to present you to a bank and you don't even know how much money you make.
Yeah.
So how you know you're going to be able to pay this mortgage? Right? So,
yeah.
So it's kind of like.
And now that I'm even thinking about it, really, like my Venmo, Cash App, things like that, they're still tied to that same main check.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah.
I was just thinking of like, if someone has multiple accounts for whatever reason, I guess. But
okay. I'll get you.
And what about for investment accounts?
So that's where we just want to see the money. Because that could just go into your assets. Even if we never touch that money, that just shows the bank, okay, she does have reserves, right? Because that's really super important to have, right? She does have a 401k. There is money in there. She does have a life insurance with a cash component. There is money there. So if she needed it, if it was a situation where she did lose a job, she could still pay her mortgage from somewhere in that time period. So so the more money you have, the more, not necessarily liquid, but the more money you have to show, the better.
Okay. And you can pull from those investment accounts or things like that towards your down payment or closing costs if needed?
Because some of them don't even have a penalty if you are buying your home. So that's something you would have to call and just check.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Good to know. And another question I had, how long does the process take? I think that's it.
I guess it would depend on, sometimes it depends on the client, right? It could take 30 days. It could take 60, 90. I've been working with somebody since January and we're just about to close, right? So I guess it just depends, right? Depends on the market, depends on the interest rates sometimes. I still had to beat out an offer the other day. I think I beat out 15 offers, and I think we ended up going 100,000 over. That's still happening today, right? And of course, when I beat it out, guess what? The clients, I don't even want that one anymore. Oh, okay. Right. Right. But it's fine. But sometimes that's what ends up happening. Even though we work and we fight hard to do it and make it happen, sometimes it just doesn't, work out for them ultimately. So I try my best to kind of nip that in the bud in the beginning to figure out, okay, what do you really want? Right? Because at the certain amount of times, if you have the right agent, they get to know you. They get to know your taste. They get to know what you really like and what you really don't. So now, it's like, I'm not even going to take you to see that because I already know you're not going to want it. Right? So, that's really key too, is when you start to build that relationship and that trust with one another. Yeah.
And with the clients that you work with on a longer term, like say this one that you said you've been working with since January, so that's now, it's been like what, 6-7 months? Did they have to get pre-approved again? What does that look like if it takes you longer than 30, 60, 90 days?
Yeah, so the credit report will expire, right? So they just have to run a new credit report.
And how
it gives me new updated documents.
And how long is that time frame until it expires?
I believe it is 120 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So about 4 months or so.
So to that, what are your suggestions to make sure that there's no issues if the process takes a little bit longer and they have to get that credit run again?
I mean, I wouldn't call these issues. It just takes so long because they just see stuff we're just searching and they don't like the properties that we see and they don't really see anything. So it's not really anything, really no issues. You just haven't made a decision yet and the time is up and you just kind of run it again.
I'm more so there and I guess what are do's and don'ts during that process if they are taking longer and there's potential that they're going to have to run their credit again? Are there certain things that they should or should not do while in the process?
I think when it just takes, I don't think there's no do's and don'ts because there's no big deal to run your credit again. Okay. Like I just had to rerun somebody else's the same exact score, same thing. So it's no like huge thing like let me hurry up and finish this out over a credit report. Like, that's so small that there's no way that you want to rush and buy a $600,000 property because you're worried about another credit pool. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's really just with the process. I don't want to rush anybody to do anything. We have been going out. They have been going out to open houses. So it's not like it's a lack of effort on either side. It's just more of their process and the properties that they like and don't like. We definitely put in offers, got beat out. So it's not like we actually were in a whole nother escrow and had to cancel that one, right? And so deposit had to go in, it had to come back to them. So the thing is, things just happen. So we've been floating through the process, right? And if we happen to lapse it over, then we just put your credit report and keep on going. That's not really a huge, thing. If that makes sense. Yeah.
When you're saying escrow, what is escrow? What does that mean?
Escrow is something that happens or opens when you actually get your offer accepted, right? So what happens is we'll submit an offer. You tell me the price you want to write it at. I go ahead and submit it. It's up to the seller to accept it. Once that is done, we open up escrow, which is a third party that's neutral between all sides. So they're not for the buyers, they're not for the sellers, right? And that's actually where you actually put your deposit in. So I don't take your money. You don't give it to the seller. As far as the deposit, you give it to escrow and they hold it in their account there. So you wire directly to them. And then at the end of the transaction, you actually wire whatever you need to close. You wire that as well. Some people even get a refund. And if that's the case, they either give you a check or you can choose to have it wired on back to you in that account as well. So that's really, and then everything flows through escrow during the transaction once you open it. So.
Okay. Are there any tax benefits to being a homeowner? And if so, what are they?
No, for sure. You can write off the interest of the property that you're paying every single year. You can write off any improvements, any renovations. So yeah, like sometimes, you know how people say, they used to say at least, like, oh, I need a kid for my taxes so I can get a tax break. You can do that, but that's kind of like property as well, right? So definitely a tax benefit for sure.
Okay. Any other benefits, financial or otherwise, that you would like to note?
No, I think we pretty much covered the actual basics, right? I can tell you that there's no financial benefits for renting though. Because if anybody can think of one, they can tell me in the chat. Because I can't think of any. I mean, you just kind of pay rent and you go and, move on to the next spot, or either you hopefully own a spot, right? Or you just kind of keep moving and renting. I say if you live with someone though, and you live in rent free, that's definitely a benefit because then you can save, right? So, like you said, some people don't like to live with family members. I'm not living with her, I'm not living with him. But if you really have a plan and a goal, time will fly by, right? So if you do have a room somewhere at grandma's house, or your mom will let you come back for a year, that year will fly by. You'll be able to be in your own place. Like that would be great, if that's what is needed for that person.
Yeah. I think the only benefits for renting are short term. That's what that would be my answer to that. It's nothing long.
Yeah, but I guess you said financial.
Yeah.
So to me, even short term, every month you're still just that could be your down payment.
Yeah.
If it's 6 months, you know what I'm saying? So 6 months, $2,500 a month, that's $15,000, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it would just depend on, you said financial benefits. Yeah, sure, I could think of just some benefits, period. But we were talking financial, and yeah. But again, we do what we have to do. I'm not knocking any renters, of course. I'm just saying, like, if that should be your goal, is to own if you can, right? Because if the down payment is keeping you, at the same time you have somewhere where you can like stay for free with grandma for 6 months, and that'll give you your 15,000 right there. Why haven't you moved yet? It's kind of like everything's just not always going to be perfect all the time. Is all I'm trying to just reiterate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to buy property out of the country, or for someone out of the country to buy property in the U.S.?
No, that is a great question. Out of the country, not out the state. I'm sure it's possible, but I don't really know. Every state has their own rules, let alone a whole other country.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be citizenship, probably, I'm sure, requirements, but I would have to literally probably investigate that particular country before I even speak on like what are the requirements of actually buying, like,
Right.
so.
But say if you're a U.S. citizen, but you're, I don't know, got a visa or double citizenship somewhere else, you would still be able to purchase a home in the U.S.
Oh yeah, for sure. Here, yeah, for sure. Same requirements though. I need to see your job history, income, debts. But yeah, definitely. If you are a citizen, dual citizenship, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See if there's any. I don't see any questions in the chat. Do we have any other questions? Let's see.
Any questions? Oh, we could talk about the workshop that's coming up. They want to come out and.
Yeah, I think we covered all the questions. So
Okay,
yes.
Good. So yeah, Saturday we're having a workshop, how to buy a duplex as a first-time home buyer. This is a workshop that we've done for years. The next one is this Saturday coming up. So if you guys would like to come talk to us a little bit in person about your own scenario, or just really get an idea of how to really own an investment property, you should definitely come out. It's at 11 a.m. this Saturday. Thank you. It's in the chat. The link is in the chat. And 11 a.m. So yes, come join us and we will answer all questions, and you can even get just more information just on the whole process.
Can I pin? Oh, I guess I can only pin one comment at a time. But okay, I just pinned the comment with the duplex workshop link.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions or anything that you just want to tell the people? We got 15 more minutes before it cuts us off.
No, like I said in the beginning, I'll just kind of say it again, like just really start with the end. Like, what's your end goal, right? Like, what do you want to accomplish? Do you want to just buy a home because somebody told you should? Like, we really have to dig deep within ourselves, right? And really figure out, because if it's not for you, or you haven't identified your own why, and you're just kind of doing what somebody told you to do, then it's not gonna happen. And that's with anything, let alone buying a home, which is like one of the major transactions of people's lives, right? So we have to make sure that let's start with the end. Let's figure out what the end looks like. Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be, right? Do you want to own multiple properties? Do you want to own one? Do you want to fix and flip? Do you want to own a duplex? Do you want to live in one, rent out the other? Like, what is your goal, right? And then I can tell you how to get there, right? Yeah. But it's your mindset. It's your own, and this is individual. Like I said, Nekaya can't tell you what you want for your own end goal, right? Because I'm going to help you through this transaction. I'm going to be your real estate resource forever and ever, but I'm not paying your mortgage. I'm not going to be with you there every day. You get what I'm saying? So it's up to you to figure out for yourself, like, hey, what does this look like for me?
Yes.
What do I want to do? And you may say, hey, you know what, Nekaya, I just want to rent forever. And I'm going to respect that. And I'm going to say, you know what, no problem. And that'll be that. You get what I'm saying? So it just has to be exactly what that person wants to do.
Yes, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a good word. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
A few of our recent clients in here. I think we should do another live and bring our clients on.
Yeah, we should. That would be great.
Maybe two. How many people can you have on here? 4. So yeah, I think that's the next
live.
They
can even come in person. Oh. I love doing that too.
Oh, that would be fun too. Yeah, the next one, let's bring some clients on.
Yeah, we will do that for sure. Yes. Well, you guys are very welcome. If you guys need anything else, remember our workshop is this Saturday. Link in the bio, link right there in the chat. Come join us. Even then, the Saturday after that, we have another one. We're going to be with Helena Conley. She's going to tell us about how to use your life insurance as a down payment, which is going to be very interesting, right? So there we go. Kill 2 birds in 1 stone, right? Like, let's go ahead and get a life insurance policy. What'd you say?
No, I was going to say, I think that's going to answer that question about other ways of building wealth or being able to be creative with getting the money to do it. So
absolutely. No, that's going to be great. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited about all our events.
Yes.
So yes. All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we don't necessarily have to kind of stay to the end. unless we just want to. But
for comments, Latrice said yes, yes, yes. Mindset's everything. You definitely have to want it for yourself.
you do.
Thank you for all the info. Thank you for being on this whole time. One of our clients. There you go, right there.
I love it. Yes, yes. That's because we build relationships. Exactly. We're not transactional.
Yes. It's not just that. See you Saturday. Love it. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. This was great.
It was great. It was great. Well, thank you for having me, Desiree. I appreciate you.
Thank you for hopping on. I'm going to make sure to save this so it will be on the timeline. If there was anything that you missed, you can rewind and go back and watch from the beginning.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have a great Tuesday.
All right. You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.